All right, moving on. Since September 2023, India has responded firmly to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's recent admission that his government had no hard proof when it accused India of involvement in the killing of Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. The Ministry of External Affairs has said that Trudeau's testimony before a public inquiry only confirms what New Delhi has been saying from the very start, that Canada has provided no evidence to support the serious allegation made against us. The Ministry of External Affairs has pointed out at least 26 extradition requests from the Indian side that have been on a standstill over the past decade. What led to Trudeau's sudden confession is the big question. Will there be any global ramification, and does this impact the Khalistani nexus in Canada? We take this conversation forward with some special guests. Joining us at this point in time is Ambassador Kanwal Sibal, former Foreign Secretary of India. So, appreciate you taking out the time and speaking with us. First up, what do you make of Trudeau's latest, doubling down? Do you see a clear link with the ongoing case pertaining to Chinese influence?
Well, only indirectly, in the sense that there is this investigation going on about foreign interference in the internal affairs of Canada. And the real target was China, because there are very serious allegations. But Trudeau has tried to deflect attention from it by raising the issue of India's interference in Canada's internal affairs, and take the heat off and dramatize India being involved in the killings in Canada and violence in Canada, whereas the accusations against China are of a different nature, of buying influence of people within his party and his cabinet who have been suborned by China. So it's a very cynical effort on the part of Trudeau. That is one aspect. The other, of course, is that he's losing ground electorally in Canada. His popularity ratings are going down very badly. They are saying there's a 20% gap now between him and Poilievre, the opposition leader. He's been dependent on the NDP and Jagmeet Singh's outfit. And Jagmeet Singh is a known Khalistani sympathizer. He has withdrawn his support, but he'll continue to give him support on an issue-based, on an issue-based support in the parliament. But this makes him vulnerable. So he's trying to pander to the Khalistani lobby as much as he can in order to secure his personal power. But I don't think we should get deflected by the China angle ourselves. There is much deeper issues involved between India and Trudeau's way of looking at things, looking at India. He has inherited his prejudices against India and in favor of the Sikh community there from his father, who was totally unresponsive to our concerns with regard to Khalistani terrorism in Canada, and in fact ignored our concerns to the point that the 1985 bombing of the Air India Kanishka took place. And even then he didn't arrest Parmar, the man who was behind this sabotage of Air India. And then on top of that, he has pretensions of being very vocal on the issue of human rights. He's got a very woke kind of a mentality and outlook. So he's a mixture of a lust for power, masquerading as a kind of a person with a higher sense of values with regard to citizens and free speech and stuff like that. And of course his prejudices against India and his inclinations, not more than inclinations, his protection of the Khalistani elements in Canada, which serve him as a basis for his continuing in office.
All right. Well, so the West seems to have, bought Trudeau's argument. How should, India be responding to that?
Well, in his own statement to the inquiry to the parliamentary committee, he acknowledged that the information or the intelligence came from Five Eyes. So Canada doesn't itself have the means to obtain the kind of intelligence they're talking about, because they have been talking about intercepting messages. Now, even that, nobody is commenting on that. That is totally unacceptable. It's illegal. And it's a violation of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. You can't pry, you can't intercept diplomatic communications. This is spying. They were spying on the Indian embassy and, of course, the government of India. And the Five Eyes were complicit in it because they have greater means to listen into messages that are passed, confidential, secret messages that are passed between governments and their diplomats abroad or within countries. But Canada has benefited from that. And the astonishing thing is that even now, when he appeared before the committee, he said that there are indications of the government of India's involvement. He still is not saying that there is hard evidence. He's talking about indications. And on the basis of indications, he has gone ahead to destroy the India-Canada relationship. Now he himself says again in this, what he said to the committee, that he's been raising this issue with India, and India has been saying that provide us evidence. And his answer is that the evidence is with your security agencies. So you probe into your security agencies and you will get the evidence. In other words, I don't have the evidence, but I have indications. I have suspicions. I have some messages that were exchanged here and there, which are not proof. But you must then probe into your security agencies and find the proof that I want and give it to me. I mean, this is childish. But this is what he's saying.
So do you think that Pannu revealing that he has been in touch with the Canadian government for 3 years proves the support system Khalistanis have built under Justin Trudeau?
Well, actually, it is worse than that. It's not only Panun. He himself said in his remarks to the committee that the information came from elements in the South Asian community. Now, what does that mean, South Asian community? This means the Khalistanis and the Pakistanis, obviously. So he doesn't want to say Khalistanis or pro-Khalistan elements. He talks about information that came. Because earlier he said that we thought it was gang warfare. But then information started coming from the South Asian community. So he's relying on the feed that he was getting from Panun and other people who are there in Canada, who are part of this pro-Khalistani gang. He was getting information from them, as if that was reliable information. But they made the judgment that it was credible allegations, and on that basis they proceeded forward. This is extremely ham-handed. Now, if they really had evidence on which they think was good enough for them to make the issue public and target the government of India in the way they have done, and especially our High Commissioner and the senior staff at the Indian Mission in Canada, then they should have come out with what these credible allegations are. But that they don't come out, because that's not proof, that has no evidentiary value. So they want to put the entire onus on us to produce the evidence for them. And in the process, they're all involved in maligning the government of India. It is actually, the whole thing is very anti-Modi and anti-BJP and anti-Hindu. That is what is motivating them. And they are absorbing and accepting all the hatred that the pro-Khalistani elements and others who are backing them have for this government. That's the reason why they've launched this campaign. And this is shared by some elements in the United States and the UK.
So the Indian interest is obviously with Canada and other nations harboring Khalistanis. What should be India's next course of action in dealing with that kind of a problem?
Well, we can't deal with that problem unilaterally in the sense that which is totally unacceptable in diplomacy. They ask us to remove the diplomatic immunity of our High Commissioner and our senior officials, knowing fully well that no government ever does that. Now, if they were unhappy with the High Commissioner, with whom they dealt for 1 year, as our government says, in terms of talking about all these issues, suddenly they declare him a person of interest, which means that he's involved in some criminal activity. Now, if that was the case, declare him persona non grata, so we remove him. But no, they wanted us to remove his diplomatic immunity. That is stupid. It's all propagandist. And we said we're not going to remove the diplomatic immunity of our diplomats, we will withdraw them. So we took the decision to withdraw them. And then we expelled 6 of their senior diplomats, including the acting and the deputy high commissioner. But in order to claim that they had taken the step to expel our diplomats, so they have created this narrative that they expelled our diplomats and we expelled their diplomats in return. No, we had decided to withdraw our diplomats the moment they sent a diplomatic note to the effect that they want us to remove their diplomatic immunity. But they don't want to feel that they have, in some ways, India has had the upper hand on them, and they took the action to expel our diplomats. In any case, it's absolutely silly what they did.
And so what should be our message to the Indians in Canada, who obviously are, also bearing the brunt of Trudeau's actions?
Well, there are 2-3 categories of these people of Indian origin there. One is the large, what you might call the Hindu community. I don't think that they have any role to play in this. On the contrary, they are feeling vulnerable, they are feeling victimized. The Hindu MP, Chandra Arya, has been making a passionate appeals to the Trudeau government to protect the Hindus because they're under threat by the Khalistani Canadians. That is one. The other is the Sikh community in general, which is divided in 2 parts. One, of course, is the mainstream Sikh community, which is quiet, which doesn't say anything, which probably does not support the extremist activity of the Khalistani Canadians. But they don't have the courage to come forward and protest more vigorously and try and influence the government of Trudeau that he's going out on a limb and he's sacrificing the interests of the larger Sikh community by supporting the Khalistani Canadians. So therefore, I have some doubts about the larger community and their relative silence. And then there are the Khalistani Canadians, who are the most vocal, the best organized, and they're criminals, and they are involved in gun running and violence and in human trafficking and all that. So they are able to be more active and influence the thinking of the authorities there. And since elements of that are in the government itself, so they can influence the investigative agencies, the RCMP and others, to not toe their line, to feed information to them, to move them into a certain direction. And then, of course, there are these poor students and others who are there, those who are there at the moment and those who may wish to go. And they will be the victims of the breakdown of relations, because the missions, in effect, on both sides, are not in a position to function, because all the senior officials have been expelled on both sides, or removed on both sides in our case, or removed on our side in our case. So I think in terms of visas and for coming home for this reason or for that reason, for tragedies in the family reunions, tourism, meeting relatives, and for those who wish to go and study there and have applied and have got admission in universities there, it will become difficult.
So do you think India should make an outreach to the Conservatives or completely cut itself off from Canada? Is that a better solution? Well,
there are 2-3 categories of these people of Indian origin there. One is the large, what you might call the Hindu community. I don't think that they have any role to play in this. On the contrary, they are feeling vulnerable. They are feeling victimized. The Hindu MP, Chandra Arya, has been making a passionate appeals to the Trudeau government to protect the Hindus because they are under threat by the Khalistani Canadians. That is one. The other is the Sikh community in general, which is divided in two parts. One, of course, is the mainstream Sikh community, which is quiet, which doesn't say anything, which probably does not support the extremist activity of the Khalistani Canadians, but they don't have the courage to come forward and protest more vigorously and try and influence the government of Trudeau that he's going out on a limb and he's sacrificing the interests of the larger Sikh community by supporting the Khalistani Canadians. So therefore, I have some doubts about the larger community and their relative silence. And then there are the Khalistani Canadians who are the most vocal, the best organized, and they're criminals, and they are involved in gun running and violence and in human trafficking and all that. So they are able to be more active and influence the thinking of the authorities there. And since elements of that are in the government itself, so they can influence the investigative agencies, the RCMP and others, to not toe their line, to feed information to them, to move them into a certain direction. And then, of course, there are these poor students and others who are there, those who are there at the moment and those who may wish to go. And they will be the victims of the breakdown of relations because the missions, in effect, on both sides, are not in a position to function because all the senior officials have been expelled on both sides or removed on both sides in our case, or removed on our side in our case. So I think in terms of visas and for coming home for this reason or for that reason, for tragedies in the family reunions, tourism, meeting relatives, and for those who wish to go and study there and have applied and have got admission in universities there, it will become difficult.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.